Hey guys, it's Jonathan here from PlayGuitar.com. Today I've got a cool little run that I like to use. A lot of different places, mostly in the key of G I like to use it. Actually it comes out of the key of G, so but I used it in two different ways in that little intro bit there, right? What it basically boils down to is that right there. And what it is inverted thirds that we're talking about. So I recently changed my Unlocking 145 lesson and added a lot of stuff to it. Now I've actually talked about how you can build chords in there, and I've talked more about the intervals. And in there you can see how chords are built and the actual intervals that are in a chord. And what we're dealing with here is actually a portion of some of the chords that you're probably familiar with in the key of G. So what are the chords in the key of G? Well, we've got G, we've got A minor, we've got B minor, we've got C, D, and E minor, right? So if I'm going from, say, G to D, one way that you can get there, of course there's many different ways, but what you can do is you could actually, just like you might step up through a scale through the notes that are on the way to where you're going, another thing you can do is go through the chords. And today, instead of going through the actual chords, I'm going to take a portion of the chords, and which ends up sounding very cool. So the chords that are in between G and D are A minor, B minor, and C. And so if we look at it from a perspective of, you know, what, okay, well, let's just dive right into the A minor here, okay? You know how to play the A minor. It sounds like that. B minor is basically just move that same chord up 2 frets, right? Hopefully you're familiar with the B minor bar chord. If not, you can head over to GuitarTipsWeekly.com and do a search for bar chords, and you'll find the video, and I go through the bar chords in there. So there's B minor. Now C, you usually probably play it open, like that. But you can also play C like that, as a kink bar, okay? And all that is an A shape, oops, moved up to the 3rd fret. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to look at the 2nd and 4th strings. And that's where the interval is going to come from in that little run that we're playing. Okay, so let's go back to the A minor. If we look at the 2nd string, that's a C. And if we look at the 4th string, that's an E. So a C and an E, what that actually is a minor third, or sorry, a major third. But because the C is on top, it's the higher note, that's the C, and the E is the lower one. So because of that, we call it an inverted third. Because normally you would have the root note on the lower end, right? So we've got an inverted third. And then if we go up to the B minor, we see that same inverted third is there again, but this time we've got a D and an F sharp, right? And I encourage you to look at this in really close detail. I know you can't see my hand, I'm not zoomed in right now, but play it on your own guitar. And out of the B minor chord, you will see how those 2 notes are there, right? And so that gives us another major third. And then if we go up to the C, and we again take the 2nd and 4th strings, using that chord position, we get both fingers on the 5th fret, and now we have a minor third. So what that ends up sounding like is, which is very nice. You can throw that in all over the place. You can use it in a lot of different ways. I encourage you to really play around with this one because it's a very cool little thing that you can use in a lot of different places. But so right there I've just showed you using the individual notes. But sometimes I like to actually just strum through that. Let the open notes ring out. So from there, of course, you can go back to the G, or you can go anywhere you want. In the opening part, I was actually going to the D again, but it doesn't matter. You can go anywhere you want within the key. So think of a lot of different ways. Think of, I challenge you, here's your homework. Sit down, play around in the key of G, and find at least 3 different ways that you can use that riff, okay? I've already showed you a couple, so you can't cheat and use those ones. There's strumming straight through. There's picking the individual notes. But there's lots of different ways that you can do that, right? And perhaps even think of a song that you know in the key of G that you can try to drop that little riff into. It's very versatile. You can use it in a lot of different ways. You can go down too. Right? So you can, but basically what you're doing there, to look at it from a little bit more of a theory perspective, is you're using some inverted thirds. And although that sounds really complicated, if you want to, I guess, approach it from a simpler angle, is you're just using parts of the chords that you're already dealing with, right? But you're just using part. You're not actually using the whole chord. Because you could play the run all the way through. There's a G. Those are the whole chords, right? Sounds good. But it's nice to, mix things up a little bit sometimes, and so this time we just went with portions of the chords, and I encourage you to do that. You can take that same principle and use portions of chords to get some really cool sounds. So have a look at some other chords. It doesn't have to be in the key of G. It can be any key you want, any chord you want, but look at using just portions of those chords, because a chord is built up of different intervals, and when you put all the intervals together, you get that full chord. But if you take just 1 or 2 of the intervals, then you can get some cool sounds.